Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this second lecture on structures in C. So, in yesterday's lecture, we talked about what a structure is. Then we saw how do we declare structures in C and how we create structure variables. We also saw how to pass structure parameters to functions as arguments. The structure variables we passed as parameters to functions. We saw a program on that. And we also saw how to return structure values from functions. Then all of us went through a quiz yesterday. So I just wanted to quickly discuss the quiz answers. So can you hear me? Can you just reply with a yes? You can hear me on the chat. Okay, yeah. So yes, enough. Yeah. I just wanted to check whether you can. I'm audible. Yeah. So your lecture 4 quiz that we had yesterday. Sorry, 4th May quiz that we had yesterday. So these were there were three questions which were asked. So first question was what examples were given in today's lecture. So actually the main example was complex, but I also talked about login ID and password, user ID and password. So you should have been a little bit more attentive to whatever was discussed. So either you skip because of the larger coverage of this because an example was solved on this, or maybe it must have skipped your mind. I don't know. But these two are the correct answers. So you did not get the answer key there. So these two are the correct answers. Okay. So this quiz is just for fun. There is no evaluation or anything as such. But I'm going to keep a quiz at the end of every lecture so that you just understand whether you have gone through the lectures. Just I want to know whether you are actually listening to the lecture or not. Next question was what is the difference between creating structures using type def struct and struct. So yesterday I had talked about this topic and it was the difference was that type def allows you to create the structure without using the struct keyword. So that is the correct answer. So the correct answer for this is this. Using type def while defining structure, it allows you to create a structure variable without the struct keyword, right? And the third question was whether a structure can be used to model a record of the database, and the answer is true. Okay, so these were the three questions yesterday. So moving ahead with the same topic today, what we will do is today's outline is we will see the second example which I had very vaguely talked about, that is a login ID and password. Then we'll see how we create array of structures or structure arrays. Okay. Then we will see how to pass these as parameters to functions. Then we will use this array of structures in the example 2. And then finally, there will be one more example on array of structures, that is the employee structure program. So we will start with the login ID password scenario. So what we have to do is you have to assume that there is a user, okay, for your website or for any other portal that you want to imagine, say the SPIT account or whatever application you want to imagine. There's a user, and each user has a username and password, right? So username and password are the two fields of the user which we want to save in our database. So when we talk about the structure for the user, we will have the username as well as the password, which will be the components of the structure. So since username and password, these both are strings, so we will assume some arbitrary length. So assuming that username maximum can be 20 characters, if you are modeling it in C, we know that strings end with a \0. We have already done some part of strings. So strings end with a \0. So there's one more character which is required. So if your maximum length user name of for username will be 20 characters, then the character array size should be 21. Similarly, if for password, if you're assuming maximum length is 15, then I'm making it as 16. The password length will be 16. Okay, so this is the structure definition. So type def struct user, whatever, you type your components, you write your components, and then the structure type. How do you create? Everyone is with me? Can you just respond on chat? Okay, yeah. So now the structure variable declaration, we know, we simply use, since we have used type def, simply we will say the structure name, the variable name that you have, sorry, the type name that we have created. This is the type name, that is user underscore t is a type name, followed by the variable name. Variable name is u. Some variable name we have given u. Okay. Now, if I want to populate this variable, that means I want to assign values to these components. What should I do? These components are not now, they are not normal variables like int, float, double. They are arrays of characters, or they are strings actually. So since they are strings, we will be using string functions to compare, to copy the values actually. We cannot directly write an assignment. You are aware, right? You cannot write something like this. So if you have a string in your program, you cannot write something like, I'll just write it here so that you understand. U.uname equal to Tina. I cannot write this. This is not allowed. Equal to operator. Assignment operator is not allowed. If you want to assign some value to this string, then you have to use strcpy, string copy. Okay. And the syntax for that is string copy destination comma source. So whatever you want to copy will be the second argument of strcpy. The first argument will be the destination. It is strcpy string destination comma source. So this source will be copied to destination. This Tina will be copied to this string. Okay. And of course, since uname is not a standalone string, it is a component of the structure u, the structure type u. So you have to make use of the direct selection operator. So we are using u dot uname. So u dot u underscore name. We put this inside strcpy and we put Tina, whatever the user, just an arbitrary user we have taken, username we have taken. Okay. Similarly, if you want to pass for password also, again it is a string. So what you will do, again you will use strcpy. Fine. So once you do this, what you can do is you can print it out and check whether it is populated or not. Okay. These two steps now I have written directly in main. Right. What I have done is I have created a variable of type user t, and then I have initialized. So this is wrong. This is not allowed. This is wrong. Right. So I have to use string copy strcpy. Then I initialize the components of the variable using these two statements. And then what I do, then I print it out. So this is a program which is sequential. I can just modify it and make it modular and add my functions. Right? Have you understood this? Can I get some reply? Or any doubt so far? Anyone has any doubt so far? Okay. So what we will do is simply here, I will simply add these two functions for populating or for reading something, this is some arbitrary username. Actually, I should have functions in my program to accept the name, username from the password from the user. Okay, and then print it out. So what we will do, void. So it will be uh, read user. Fine. Read user. I will say user type, user t, u. Inside this, I will create a user t u. Right. If you remember the complex function that we created last time, you will be able to write the read user function for the user structure, right? So user t u will be here, and then what you will do, you will prompt the user to enter the username, right? Enter username and enter password. Now, how will you read it? You will use scanf %s. S is the format specifier for a string. You will say u dot username. Now, since this is a string, you do not use the address of operator. You do not use the address of operator. Right? Similarly for password, u dot password, pw. Right? Once I do this, I need to return this user u. Right? I need to return this from the function. So I will write a return statement. Return u, and here what will I do? I will change the return type of this function to user t. Right? So user t, read user. Fine. So this is the read user function. Similarly, what will I do? I will create a print user function. Now, how will this change for the print user function? Instead of the return type, I am not returning any value here from print user because I simply have to print the user details. Okay, I just want to print the user details. So what I will do, I will write a void print user, and of course I need to know which user's details I need to print, right? So what I will do, user t some user u. Fine. What I will do, I will not declare it inside. It is in a parameter here. I will simply say username is your username. Your username is this. Instead of scanf, you will have a printf, and your password is whatever. Right? Since it is all printf, I'll put a new line here, and this will be a printf. So once I just modify this, so what I've done, read user, similarly print user, these two functions I have created. Return you will not be there here, right? Because you are just printing the value of the user. Okay. Now what you will do is, you will call this, instead of this, we will take this from the user only. We will call these two functions. So what, one by one, so what we will do, how will we call read user? We will simply say u is equal to read user inside main. If you recollect yesterday's program, u is equal to read user. Fine. This is for read user. Now once you have read the details of this user, you will print the details of this user. So to print the details of this user, you will simply say print user u. Print user is not taking any, not returning any value, but it is taking one argument, that is u. Right? So let us quickly run this program. ECC struct and dot c. Compile. I will run it. Enter username, whatever was there, whatever thing, and enter password. Forgotten the colon. XYZ. So it is printing the username and the password. So this is the function call for read user. Similarly, this is the output of function call for print user. Right? So just rectify this. Any doubts so far? Anyone has any doubts? Okay. Okay. So this is about the user login program. We will come back to this program later. What we will do is we'll come back to this program later and we'll write more functions once we see how to create arrays of structures. Fine. So right. So arrays of structures, we will see the next topic. So when you want to actually have multiple records that you need to save, okay, that when you talk about multiple people, multiple, for example, if I'm talking about a group of students from EXTC, FE, EXTC, so all students of your class, right? So I do not have to store just the marks or just your names. I will have marks plus your names plus UIDs plus what else? Date of birth, whatever. A lot of data about you that I need to store. So all this data that I need to store, when I write a C program, then there are two ways of doing this. The first way is I create multiple arrays which will run in parallel to depict this scenario. So what I will do is, that is parallel array. So suppose there are 50, there are some, I'm talking about a group of 50 students, suppose. Then what I will do, the IDs also will be 50. The number of IDs of representing that group will be 50. So I'll create an array of 50 IDs. Similarly, the GPAs also will be 50. So I'll create an array of another array of 50, which will represent the GPAs. Okay? So these are parallel arrays that you will be creating. So this is one way of representing the scenario. Similarly, there's one more example here which talks about the coordinates of xy coordinates of a number of points. Okay, so what I can do is double x. X is the array of all x coordinates of num points. Okay, number of points. So that number of points could be 100 points. Suppose you're considering xy coordinates of 100 points, right? So what you're doing is you're creating an array of the x coordinates of 100 points, and then parallelly you are creating an array of the y coordinates of the 100 points. Okay, so this is one way of representing the scenario, that is parallel arrays. However, this way of representing is not a very intuitive way of representing a real world scenario logically. Okay, rather than this x and y to be separate parallel arrays, what we can do is we can always make it a type. So what I'll say, I'll create a point type with xy coordinates as the components. So I'll create a structure type called point. Okay, and I will create these xy as coordinates, as components of this structure. Okay, so what this is similarly for this GPA example, student example, what we are doing is we are combining everything into one bundle. We are making a structure of ID and GPA. Okay, and then we will do something about it. What we will do is then we will create an array of structures. The second way is you create a type out of this, you create a structure out of this, you combine everything together, bundle everything together, and then you create an array of structures. So how to create an array of structures? So array of structures will be created using simply the type name followed by the variable name and into square brackets the size of the array. I'll just write it here. So suppose student was my array. So what I will do, suppose my type was, what was that? Yeah, student T. This was the type, right? This student T was a type. So what I will do is, I will create student T, student T as student T as the type, and the array name as maybe students. This is my array name. Okay. And then I will give it a size. The same way, maybe 100. Okay. 100 students I'm talking about. Okay. So this that I've created is nothing but it is an array of structures. This is known as an array of structures or array of structure types. Okay. That it simply means that this array students, its type is a structure type. This is a structure type, right? It is not a primitive type like int or float or double. It is a user defined type. Fine. So what you have done is you have created an array of structures. It is very similar to your primitive arrays. That means if it is a primitive array, it will be simply int x of 100. Similarly, if it is an array of type student t, it will be student t, variable name of that array, students, and the size in bracket, right? So then what you can do is, then you can actually access. So now what they have named here is the array as student list, they have called stu list, right? So this, to access individual elements from this array, you make use of the index number. So first student will be at index 0, second student will be at index 1, third student will be at index 2, and so on, right? So if I want to access now further the components of this array, what I will do, again I will make use of the selection operator, the direct selection operator, the period operator, right? So I will use student list of 0 dot id. If I want to refer to this students, the first student's id, I will say student list of 0 dot id. If I want to refer to his GPA, then I will say dot GP. So that is this example what is given here. So in general, it will be student list of I dot the component name. That is how you will access the individual components. So this is the basic concept of array of structure. So understand there are two ways to represent multiple records. Either you use parallel arrays or you make it more logical and you represent it in the form of a type, structure type, bundle it together, and then later on create an array of that type. So these are the two ways. Okay. Now what we will do is we will go back to that example, login example, and we will, instead of creating only a single user, now what we will do is we will create an array of structures. Okay? And then we'll write some function which will validate the credentials of a user. Now we'll see this. Before this, please let me know whether you are having any doubts. I'll just pause for some time. Let me know if you're having any doubts. What is the okay? Okay. So what I want to say right now is your parallel arrays, you are having multiple types, right, which are representing the representing some object, right? So or either student or point. So that is when you create parallel arrays, then what happens is logically it becomes very difficult even when you program it later, and if it is a very difficult complex program, then what happens is you have to think about id separately and gpa separately, and then the marks whatever name separately. So it becomes very difficult. But when you club this together into a structured type, then everything is at one place. So simply you say that structure variable name of of the index dot the component. So it becomes very logical for you as a programmer to actually imagine that what is happening in the real world. So parallel arrays makes things a little, you know, not similar to the real world, you can say. Although you can do the same thing using parallel arrays. Okay? The second doubt that I've got that is that you do the same thing using 2D array. But again, for 2D array, enough that you can do only if the type is same, by the way, because arrays, you know, will store data of similar types. So if I create a 2D array, it can be of double type only. All the elements can be of double type only in C. If I create a 2D array of type double, all the elements will be of type double only. I cannot create one of type double, one of type character, string, and so on. I cannot mix the types in C, right? So it will have a limit. The approach when you're using 2D arrays, again, it will have a limit. Again, then you have to bother about the index, where you have saved that ID, where you have saved GPA, where you have saved some other numerical data. So if there are multiple data, because in real world scenarios, you will not have 2 or 3 data. You will have multiple fields. What examples we take, we are just picking up a few fields. In fact, we are not even taking into consideration so many of the fields that are there in the actual real world object. We are not considering it actually in these examples that we're doing. We're considering 3 or 4 important fields just to understand how to play around with them, how to work with using structures or whatever concept that you're studying, right? So it's very important that you think how in the real world that object is and how you will be able to closely relate to it as a programmer. So that approach is very important when you program stuff, right? So that is what I wanted to say. If you still have more doubts, we will discuss them via email, because I want to complete few more topics. I want to complete the examples. Okay, otherwise we are running out of time. So I'll come back to the doubts, more doubts. These were the 2 doubts which I found were asked. Okay, other doubts later. Fine. So moving ahead, this example of user login, we'll go back to the program. Fine. Going back to the program. Okay, so what we are required to do is we are going to create an array of users first of all. So array of users we'll create. So instead of this user u, we will create array of users, say 50. Okay. And then what we will do is we will create n. Let us keep n to let us restrict n to 3 users. Why? Because we just want to simulate it and run it quickly and see. Okay, for 3 users. Now what we will do is we will call what we have done. We already have these 2 functions, read user and print user. Now can we use these 2 functions? Can we use these 2 functions to populate this array? Think, can we use these 2 functions, read user and print user, to populate this array? The answer is a yes. Okay, you can use them. What you can do is you can run a loop. You can iterate through this array for n number of times, and you can call these functions inside that loop. Yes, you can iterate, and you can call these functions inside. Okay. So what we will do is we will write one more function. This is one way of doing it. What we will do is user t. Now what we will do is to this function we will pass the array. We will pass the array. I'll just call it with some other name so that you don't get confused. User array, u array, okay, u underscore array. We will pass this. We will pass this as a function parameter. See the difference? We are passing this array u underscore array as a function parameter. Okay. Since we are passing an array, we also need to pass the size of the array. So I'll say int n. Okay. So n I have just hard coded here to 3. You can make it user defined. You can take n from the user inside main and then pass that n here. Okay. So now here inside populate, what we will do is we will populate this array u array. So we will call which method function? We'll call read user function. Okay. We are going to call the read user function inside the populate function. We are going to call this inside function populate. So we are going to call a function inside another function. Okay, both of these functions are user defined. Read user is also user defined. Populate is also user defined. Okay, it's not the main function. It's some other function, right? So what we will do is we will run a loop here. So I'll use a for loop to go through the array. So I'll use a loop variable for I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. Now inside this, printf, I don't have printf, I need to do a scanf. What I will do, I will not do a scanf also. I will call this function read user inside this function. Can I do that? Yes. So what I will do, I will simply say what is the function? It's read user. It does not take any argument, right? Read user does not take any argument, right? It's not taking any argument, and it is returning a user type. And it is returning a user type. So what we will do is user array of I is equal to read user. So what will happen? Whatever is on the left hand side, that array element will be assigned that variable which is returned from this function. So whatever you're returning, this you're returning from this function u, this u will go inside u array of I, ith location of that array. So every time that this loop is run, this read user function will be called. Okay, first time, for example, I is equal to 0. For I equal to 0, read user will be called. Okay, first. So this will finish executing. It will take all username, password, it will run, and it will return. The last statement is return u. So it will return this user object. It will return this user structure variable back. So this will return, and so this will go inside user array of I. So the call will be user array of I equal to read user. We are calling one function inside another. So once this loop runs, at the end of this loop, all the user array elements up till n will be populated. Okay, so all n users will be populated. Fine. Once this is done, what we will do is, we have to decide whether we need to return this or no. Do we need to return this? The question to you is, do I need to return this array? Okay. What do you say? Let me see in the chat. Do we need to return this array? No, right. We do not need to return this array. Very good. We do not need to return this array because arrays, whenever you are passing the base address of that array as a parameter. Whenever you pass an array as a parameter, you pass the base address of that array to the function. So whatever changes you are making here inside the function, whatever assignments you are doing, a of I, array of I, some u array of I equal to something, x, y, z, whatever changes you are making here will be reflected inside from where it is called in the calling function. Okay, so I do not need to return. So once I do this, can I write a similar function to print all the contents of n users? Can I do that? Like I have populate, so I will simply say print all users. Okay, print all users. Can I have such a function using with the help of print user? Can I have such a function? Using print user, I will call print user inside print all, right? I can do that. Okay, I can do that. So what I will do is user, what I need to have as parameters again for print all, I need to have the array plus the size as the parameters. Array plus the size as the parameters. Fine. Once I do this, inside this I'm going to call print user function. So again I'll make use of my for loop. Now here I will not do this kind of an assignment. I will what do I need to call? I need to call the print user. This line I have to change. What do I need to do? I need to write this as print user. So I'll say print user. Fine. Now inside print user, this is my print user function. This is the definition of my print user function. Inside print user, what will I do? I will pass the user variables one by one. So one by one means the array elements one by one. This array element one by one. Okay. So here instead of that u, I will write u array of I. So I will just replace this with u array of I. So first run of the loop, u array of 0 will be passed and printed. And printed why? Because it is passed to print user and print user is printing that user. Print user is taking care of printing that user. Right? So print user u array of I. Similarly, as similar to populate, this will also not return any value because this function's job is not to return, it's simply to print. Fine. And it's making use of print user to print it. It's not printing on its own. There's no printf statement inside print all, but it is making use of another function which is actually printing it. Right? That is print user. Now let us quickly run this without using this. So here I am going to comment this out, and I will call, rather than the read user and the print user functions, I will call the populate and the print all functions. I will call the populate first, then the print all functions. Okay. So what I will do, I will say populate, return type is void, so I will not write anything. I will pass the parameters. What are the parameters of populate? It is u array, the user array, whatever it is. That name could be different. This name could be different, right? This could be some, I'll just change this name. Okay, this name is different. U array. This is having an extra r, right? So I am passing u array and n as a parameter. Okay. Even this n could be different. I can write this as size. Let me write this as size. Okay. Because that is the n and u array. These two are the formal parameters of the function, right? Formal parameters of the function populate. underscore r and n are the formal parameters of the function populated, right? And these are the actual parameters. U underscore a single r and size, these are the actual parameters of it. Once I do this, I will call the print all function. Okay, so print all function again takes two parameters, the array and the size. So again, these will be the parameters. Fine. So let us see. Let us run and see this. Okay. Saved it. Now compile it and run it. So it is asking, okay, XYZ first user, second user. It is asking now. Fine. So first user, it has taken details. Second user, okay. Fine. So new lines I have not put, but it's okay. So it is, this was the first function which we call, that is populate, which made use of read user function to do this job, to read three users. Okay. And then this is the second function, print all, which we used to print out all everything. Is it in order? Tina, XYZ, Meena, ABC, and Sina. Okay, PQR. So this is the print all function. I just forgot to put the new line here. So after each, I should put the new line, or before each I can put. Okay. Then it will print it properly, formatted output. Now there are several questions coming up on chat, like for loop. Can you put the for loop in the print user function itself? Yes, you can do that. This was just one way of doing it. What I use is, I use two functions, right? I call one function in another. This can be done because I had already written the function. So I just reduce my job. What you can do is, you can directly just change this and write whatever you have written in read user inside this for loop. That can be done. It's perfectly fine. You do not need, you don't need to have two more functions actually. You can directly put all your code from read user inside this. You can do that. Similarly, you can put all the code for print user inside this for loop. It could be done. Both are correct. Both approaches are correct. Since I already had the functions, I just wanted to do it in another way. Okay, that is why I've used these two functions, extra functions, so that you get to know single user, multiple users, how to do it. So at one point of time, if you want to have read only one user, then you cannot use this function, right? If you want to use read only one user temporarily in some variable, then you cannot make use of these two functions. Actually, there's a purpose why I have created these two functions. Okay, we will see that, because the question, going back to your question, what was your question? You need to write a function to validate the credentials of the user, right? So to validate the credentials of the user, what you need to do? First, we'll create array of users. Second step will be, you will ask the user to take some random users credentials, and then you will validate whether it is there in the database. If it is there, both username and ID pairs match, then you will say, okay, you are a valid user. Welcome to the next screen, whatever. Otherwise, you are an invalid user. So error message. Sorry, your login failed, something like that. We are just simulating this login activity actually. Fine. So let us use this function, these functions, whatever we have written, to write one more function to validate the credentials of the user. So far, so good. Anyone is having doubts related to this? I'm just waiting for some doubts, if any. Okay, so I'll proceed with the final function, that is validate credentials. Now this is my function, and this function should take, first of all, it has to search in my database. Right? So the first argument has to be the array, the database of my users. Fine. The first parameter has to be the array. So u underscore array. Fine. And of course, since it's an array, along with the array, you should pass the array size. Since it's an array, along with the array, you need to pass the size. Now the second argument, please switch off your microphone. Yeah. The second argument that is there is the size, and the third argument that you have should be that user whom you want to validate, whether you want the user who has just come in to log in. Okay, so for example, someone just joined the live stream now. Okay, so I want to validate whether that user is a valid user or not. Okay. So the credentials have to go there. What you will do, you need to pass one more object, one more structure type. We'll call that type as the CU, that is the current user. Okay, we are validating this CU against the database of our existing users, whether it's a new someone who has joined is a valid user or not. That is what we are going to do. Okay, now what we can do is this function can return a true one if the user is valid, otherwise return a false. So we can make this as int, or we can keep simply as void, and we'll print out welcome, you are a valid user, or we'll print the error message. So I'll just keep it void for simplicity and print it out. Okay, so what I will do, first step is, what should be the logic? I will just tell you the logic in plain words. I have my database. I have my database. I have my database of users, and I need to go through the your database one by one. And then what do I need to do after that? I need to check, okay, whether this current user CU's username is the same as the first record's username. This CU's password, is it the same as the first record's password? These two things simultaneously I have to validate. These two things simultaneously I have to validate. If both of these match, then bingo, your user is a valid user. If not, at the very first record, if not, then go and check the next record. Then go and check the next record. You keep on continuing this process till you find a pair which matches something in the data, matches the current user's values. Otherwise, till you reach the end of the database. You keep on doing that. And if you happen to reach the end of the database, then what do? You simply say invalid user. Try again, please try again. So that is what you're going to do. So since we are going to go through the database, we need to write a loop. So I'll say for I is equal to 0, my usual way, I is less than n, I plus plus. Fine. Now what I will do is, inside this, I'll write an if. I need to compare, right? So I'll use an if statement. Inside this, I will say if u underscore array of I dot username, right? Can I use this double equal to here? No, because it's a string that I need to compare. So I need to use string compare, strcmp, this library function. Okay, Remember that for string functions, I just forgot to tell you, you have to include this string.h library, which I have included. So that is my strcpy work. That is why my strcpy worked earlier, okay, which I had written. Otherwise, it will not work. So now I have to use, I cannot use a double equal to operator like in Python. I cannot use here in C. I have to use my library. So if string compare usernames uname, comma, CU's username, if both of these match, if I want to detect a match in string compare, what do I need to write? What do I need to write? Can anyone tell me quickly? For strcmp, what should be the return value of string compare if both the strings are same? It should be 0. strcmp returns a 0 if both these arguments are the same string. So if I compare string compare with Tina and Tina, so both are, if both arguments are Tina, then this will return, this string compare function, this function will return a 0. So if there's a match, it will return a 0. So what will I write? If string compare this comma this, if it is equal to 0, this is one condition. And what is the second condition? The second condition is string compare user array of I dot password and CU's password, if both are the same, okay, that means string compare of this also is equal to 0, this also returns 0, that means the pair is correct, okay. Then what you will say? You will say it's a valid user, so you will say printf welcome. Welcome. I'll just write a welcome, wind it up, and I will break the loop. What I will do is, I'll simply say so instead of breaking, I can simply say return. Fine. I will write the return statement. So it will not go to the remaining code. It will simply return from this function to the calling function. Okay. Otherwise, I don't need to write anything inside. Otherwise, it will keep on running, and it will finish running. And once it finishes running, you understand that that user is not there inside this database. So if the user is not there inside the database, you simply say invalid credentials. Okay. Simply say invalid credentials, and you stop your function. So this code will be reached only if this if never becomes, only if this if never becomes true. Okay. The moment it becomes true, the function is going to stop executing because of this return statement. You're not returning any value, you're simply returning. So return statement without any value. This is a valid C syntax. Okay. Now what we will do is we will simply call this. So what we will do here, one more, we will create one user. Now for this user, you need to take the username password, right? You need to say enter your username and enter your password. Then only you can validate against the database. Fine. So for this user, first of all, we will create the database. So what we have done, we have populated the database. Okay. Then what we will do, we will take the credentials for this user, current user. Okay. So for this, we will call the single function that we have used. The read user this read user function will read a single user, okay, not on all entire array. It will read only a single user. So I'll say u is equal to read user. Okay, now I have populated my database, I have read the user. Now I can call validate credentials. Now what I will say, I will simply say validate credentials. First argument is array. Okay, so in this case it is user underscore array. Second is the size of the array, and third is the current user. So second is the size of the array. Size of the array is size, and third is the current user. Okay. Now let us quickly run this. Okay, it's compiled. We'll run it again. Same XYZ. No, ABC. Fine. And PQR. This fourth username that it is asking, it is the current user. So suppose I enter Meena and ABC. Okay, so it has printed welcome. So it has found out the that Meena ABC is the correct password username password combination, and this it is printing out because I had forgotten to remove this print out function. Okay. Now, similarly, if it is an invalid user, what we will do? Again, the same thing. We'll add Tina ABC. Okay. YZ. Okay. Suppose I write for this value, if I write Sina correctly, but I write instead of PQ, I write PQR, I write only PQ. Then it will say invalid credential. Fine. So this is your invalid credentials program. So with this, actually we end today's lecture. So if you have any doubts, you can let me know here. Any doubts? Okay. So what I will do right now, before you all leave, I'm going to share one quiz quiz link right now with you for today's lecture. Please answer it quickly in the next 5 minutes, and then you can leave. Okay. So I'll just post it on this chat. I'll just post it here. Let's see. I posted on this chat. So after going through the quiz, you can just leave the lecture and we are done for today. I'm going to pass these programs to you, yesterday's and today's. And if we have a recording, if you have missed, some of you, I have got that information that you've missed some of it. You could not hear, or there are some issues with streaming. So I'll just pass on the recordings to you of the lecture so that you can go through it again if you have missed out something. But I want you all to give this quiz before you switch. I just want you to give the quiz. Is the quiz link working? Can someone just... Okay. The quiz link is working, right? Okay. Okay. Thank you for listening to me. See you in the next week. I'll also be sending a list of practice questions so that you can practice, okay, on this topic. So next week you should just come prepared for the next topic. It's a continuation of the same thing. One more example and something more on pointers with structures. Yes, I'll be sending the PPT also. I'll be sending the PPT as well.